Before we call the roll, remind everyone to please silence your cell phones. Also, the meeting materials are available online at the LRC website. And with that said, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Senator Berg, Senator Carpenter, Senator Mills, Senator Smith,
Present.
Senator Storm,
Here.
Senator Turner, Senator Wheeler, Senator Williams, Senator Wilson,
Here.
Senator Yates, Representative Branscombe, Representative Bridges, Representative Camuel,
Present.
Representative Dixon, Representative Elliott,
Here.
Representative Fleming, Representative Griffey,
Here.
Representative Hale,
Here.
Representative Heverin,
Present.
Representative Herron,
Here.
Representative Hodgson, Representative Huff,
Here.
Representative Imes, Representative Lewis,
Here.
Representative McCool, Representative Mosier,
Here.
Representative Neighbors,
Here.
Representative Palumbo,
Here.
Representative Roberts,
Here.
Representative Smith, Representative Tackett Lafferty,
Present.
Representative Thomas,
Present.
Representative Upchurch,
Here.
Representative Wesley, Representative Williams,
Here.
Co-Chair Blanton,
Here.
Chairman Higdon.
Here. It appears we have a quorum present and duly constituted to do business. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our meeting on June the 4th. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. The minutes are adopted. So our first agenda item today, driver's license system and new regional office update. Commissioner Matt Cole, Commissioner, Department of Vehicle Regulation. Matt, welcome to the committee. You need no introduction. Everyone here knows you. You've been here many times. But for the record, identify yourself and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Matthew Cole, Commissioner for the Department of Vehicle Regulation at the Transportation Cabinet.
Please proceed.
Well, we have good news to share
May I
with
pull
you.
that
for this.
microphone just a little bit closer to you, please?
How about that?
That's better.
A little better?
Yes, sir.
The good news is both the modernization and the regional offices are coming along very nicely, so we're glad to share with you this update for the kidless modernization, or the Kentucky Driver's License Information System. The driver's license system modernization is essential for Kentucky for moving forward for several reasons. One, just the connectivity with other programs, with other jurisdictions. So the $19 million that were set aside for this program was essential for us to have that. And for this is going to pay dividends for many years to come. So another program that a lot of people have heard of is the state-to-state program. This is what's going to connect all jurisdictions to know which jurisdiction has the pointer or the account for each individual driver and credential holder. So this will help cut down on fraud, identity theft, many opportunities there, and it'll just allow for us to have more real-time communication about individuals and their driving privileges. So having this modernization is going to enable us to connect to programs like state to state. We're going to be able to eliminate multiple manual processes that'll save manpower hours every single day. And then reporting will vastly improve. Kidless was simply just not designed to have any reporting in the time that it was made in 91, 92. It was literally just a database that held the information. And we've modified it and changed it to do as many different processes as we could, but it was maxed out probably 15 years ago. So we're really excited about this to be able to move forward with this modernization, because this is just going to make information flow quicker. We'll be able to do reports on which people are suspended, how they're impacted, things that we really just can't query now or in a very limited capacity. So where are we in the process? The RFP was issued May 10th, and it closed on June 21st. It's still proceeding in the finance cabinet's purchasing process. So what they'll do is they'll go through and they'll receive each one of the submissions. They'll make sure that they're valid, that they were submitted properly, and then eventually when they've kind of validated that portion of the process, then we'll go to the scoring with our team. So that way we'll establish which submission was best, and then once that gets completed, then we will actually go to contract. So once the contract is awarded, deployment will take about 24 months. Would you like to do any questions on this one, or do you want me to go ahead and move on the update for the regional offices?
We can take questions. I was going to ask you, this is the system that replaced the old system that we have that's held together with duct tape and paper clips. That's the one.
On a good day.
That's the one. And so is there other modernizations that some other states are doing that we'll be able to do with this system once it's implemented?
Absolutely. All the equivalents that what we're doing with CAVIS, with electronic titling, lien, all of those things, we'll have the same versions of that for drivers, for finding out people who have CDL infractions. This will allow for that information to flow electronically. We'll be able to connect with other agencies in the state, so we'll be able to help out people verifying identity. These are all things that we will grow to after the deployment. Obviously, they'll be like the add-ons kind of thing, but it opens up just a world of possibilities. If you see something that's going on in another state on the capabilities, more than likely we'll be able to match that and mirror it.
Will this system also help with issuance of driver's license
It'll
and work at helping state police with some of the functions that they provide currently, that it will be an asset to them also?
It will, in both instances, yes. For KSP, they usually are just checking on driver privileges when they access it, but for record building and issuance, it'll streamline the procedure because we won't be fighting between two systems, the vendor system and Kidless, to do the actual issuance. This system will be able to take care of all the front end, and then the vendor system will just issue the credential at the factory. So this will streamline the in-person, and we also hope that this is what's going to lead to have a lot of conveniences where people won't have to come to the office as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, please proceed.
Absolutely. So for the new driver license regional offices, 2 new locations are being established. We've already established the temporary location there in Bardstown. It's up and running now. We've already had our friends and family soft launch, and now we're into full production there. What this does is this allows us to go ahead and get acclimated into the community, let them know that we're there and we're going to have a permanent presence, and then that we believe that the permanent office will be ready at the end of December, early part of January, and that will be a fully functional regional office there. And then our other target is Grayson County. Since there were no options available under a county government, local government, quasi-government, we had to go to the bid process. So that one will take a little longer, but that'll lead us directly to the permanent establishment being done. We won't have a temporary in that area due to no options being available. And then a third driver license regional office is under consideration, and what we're doing now is we're measuring kind of the 2 factors. Is there a spot on the map where there's kind of a geographical hole where we need to be located, or is there a place that struggles with capacity? And we balance the 2 of those, and that's where we'll kind of explore that third office to make sure that if there's a hot spot, then this will alleviate that and give us some more relief.
Okay. Please proceed.
I believe covered all of it there on the regional offices. I've given you nothing but the good news. This is the easy presentation for today. So,
Well, does anybody have a question for Matt, or Sarah Jackson's back in the back there that she's hiding from us? Chairman Blanton has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner, for your presentation. Just for informational purposes, the time logs, timelines that we used to be seeing people having to wait and things, have those been getting better and
Absolutely.
decreasing, and continue to see improvement there?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. With us adding more full-time state employees, it's strengthening the teams. We finally got to get a lot of our branch managers in place section supervisors. So now with that real backbone of leadership in there, we're seeing the performance of the offices improve. Wait times are going down. The biggest thing that we'll stress with people is make that appointment. It makes it so much easier. You'll get people who'll come in as a walk-in. Toward the end of the day, the slots may be filled up for the day, and we know that can cause a little bit of an issue there. So use the appointments. Plan the day and the time and the location you want to come to, and it just makes the transaction so much smoother. But obviously, walk-ins are always welcome. We know that there's emergencies, there's situations that just pop up, and we're available for them in that as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Representative Hebron.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to say thank you. We are so excited that Grayson County is an opportunity for a driver's licensing facility, especially with all the chaos, I will say, in Hardin County. We are so excited to have that in Grayson County, so thank you. And I just want to take a moment to Chairman Higdon. Thank you all. I know Sarah Jackson, especially, I see her back there. You all have been great to work with, and just listening to our concerns with this and trying to make it right. So thank you for the partnership opportunity there.
Absolutely. That's our goal every day, is to make it a little better.
Well, I do want to thank you and especially Sarah Jackson. Wave at everybody, Sarah. If anybody has any problems, our constituents call us from time to time with issues about the regional offices, and Sarah and her team have been outstanding as far as getting back to people and getting their issues resolved. So I want to thank Sarah, and she is somewhat shy. She doesn't say much, so I understand her sitting there in the back today. I do want to remind folks that driver's licenses are available online. You can renew a driver's license on your cell phone in about 5 minutes, provided you put the information in correctly.
Important.
I've been had a problem with that myself. They're also available by mail, and you can even send cash, and they'll accept cash by mail. So those are two good options that will prevent people from having to go to the regional office, and thank you for making those work. Any other questions? Well, Matt, thank you, and I appreciate your work on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Next up, John Moore, update on the charging stations and the grant program. John, if you don't mind, introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
Thank you all. My name is John Moore. I serve as a Deputy State Highway Engineer for Project Delivery and Preservation, and I also serve as the Cabinet Lead for the NEVI implementation, which is the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program. Also want to commend a few folks out of the team that are here with me. Justin Herod, who's the project manager, who carries the lion's share of the work associated with this. So he's in attendance as well. So want to give a brief recap. The NEVI program was initiated in 2022 via the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law with the goal of creating a dependable electric vehicle infrastructure charging system throughout the nation. Kentucky's portion of the $5 billion allocation for that goal is $69.5 million allocated over 5 years. The program initially focuses on building out the alternative fuels corridor, which is also called the AFC, which is what we call our phase one. Toward that goal, we have currently obligated $27.2 million to date towards developer commitments, leaving $42.3 currently available for future phases. There's still some, I'll tell you, some wrinkles in that may reduce that available budget in a little bit. So just as a reminder of Kentucky's alternative fuels corridor, or our charging network, this includes all the interstates and parkways. Just a reminder for the parameters for the NEVI program, Stations are required to be within 50 miles of each other, within a mile of the corridor. They must be publicly available 24/7. Must be able to support 4 simultaneous charging vehicles at 150 kilowatts at all times. In order to achieve this, we've issued to date 2 requests for proposals and have awarded 42 sites, totaling $27.2 million towards the development of these NEVI stations. Once these are completely built out, travelers will have access to 168 chargers conveniently located along Kentucky's primary corridors. With the recent clarification from the Federal Joint Office of Energy and Transportation, we will likely be having to issue a 3rd RFP. If you look very closely, there's a number of orange dots on this map. Those are currently stations that fit the NEVI criteria. However, they were not funded through the NEVI program. So in order to offset the cost of the reporting requirements and to ensure that they comply with the performance period, we will have to issue an additional RFP to offset their costs of reporting, or to find alternative sites that would finish out our build out. And just as a part of the guidance that we received lately is, in order to achieve build out, we have to have all stations fully operational in order to achieve build out and move on to future phases. So that brings us to, okay, how long does it take? What impacts the timeline? The timeline is primarily in each developer's hands, but there are a number of federal requirements to be met. The first is each developer has to document that they have an association with the host. So just formalize that, show us that that's inked in paper, and then to get everything ready to begin the design and implementation. Task 1 and 2 is associated with the site design, utility coordination, any permitting that's required, equipment procurement, and anything else required to take the project into the implementation phase. Task 3, the construction or implementation phase. This is the actual implementation and commissioning. We actually have one station that's currently, we anticipate will be commissioned by the end of the month. Task 4 and 5, those are the operational and maintenance periods, as well as the reporting time frame. So part of NEVI, you're required to keep the station operational for 5 years and comply with the reporting requirements over that time frame. Why does that take so long? For many developers, this may be their first interaction with the joys of interacting with federal funding and the requirements associated with that. Additionally, the industry as a whole is working through new requirements as well as defining the program. Some of the new requirements, including the Buy America, Buy American law that was expanded, and how that affects all of the equipment that pertains to EVSEs. Right now, the primary impact time is associated with transformers. They have come down slightly, but lead times are still up around a year's from the time they order it to the time they can get it in and install it. So that is really the driving force. That being said, we are making progress on building out the network. Based on developer feedback, we anticipate up to 11 to be operational this calendar year, another 21 to be operational next calendar year, and we're optimistic that we'll be able to achieve build-out certification in 2026. And once we achieve build-out in 2026, that will allow us to move beyond the alternative fuels corridor and achieve the next 2 phases that I'll talk about. So after we get build out, one of the focus areas is going to be other priority corridors. These are high traffic to significant corridors off of the AFC. We initially identified this network in 2022, recognizing that it was going to be a while before we were going to be able to do any work on it. As we now have put the AFC build out on track to implementation, we're starting to take a look at this again and determine if these other priority corridors need any alterations or adjustments. The other aspect of post-approval funding relates to community charging. During the time available before build-out, we have a heavy public involvement with various local agencies to determine what the appropriate community build-out would look like in each area. And both of these, other priority corridors as well as community charging, we're very optimistic that we will be ready once we achieve build-out to hit the ground running and begin rolling those out. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions that y'all might have.
Now, my understanding on these 42 recipients of these grants, they are required to make a match. There's a match required for them to get those grants.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
And they pay those themselves.
So it's a reimbursement program. So whatever expenditures they have that qualify, the Navy program will reimburse 80% of that.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Okay. Representative Smith has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quick, in reading the last 4 or 5 months on the internet discussing electric vehicles, is the cabinet aware of any downtrend in the electric use in the future? I'm reading about car dealerships being left with a lot of inventory, rental turning inventory back in. Are you aware of any downtrend in the electric vehicle use? I've heard manufacturers saying they're going back to the hybrid system and not fully electric. Am I reading the right message that's being delivered out there, or how is the cabinet receiving this?
So I'm not dialed in completely on that, but the electric vehicle industry was very aggressive a couple years ago in expanding the market. I believe this is a natural contraction that they have to adjust to the market forces. Once there's a dependable infrastructure in place, I think that will grow again to match demand. But all forms of electric vehicles are likely solutions down the pipeline.
Quick follow-up, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So I know this was a grant, but grants are still our tax dollars that we receive. So you're not saying that the cabinet's looking at any slowdown in your infrastructure? You're going to continue as if we're on a high rate of speed of getting electric vehicles out there. So you're saying you have no concern on spending these dollars in the infrastructure. You're spending them on thinking that it's going to expand and not have a decline in electric use. So did I hear you correct on that?
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
partially it's kind of a catch-22, which comes first, whether the vehicles are out there. Part of the suppression of demand is the lack of dependability traveling long distances. Right now, it's you almost have to plot your course out on a map to figure out if you can make it. That's not something that's common with traditional combustion engine vehicles or even hybrids, because you can stop anywhere. You have dependable places that you can refuel or recharge. So with this is going to ideally break the logjam, provide that dependable infrastructure. And this is just a basic infrastructure. It's not a robust. Not putting a charger in every home with this program. or anything like that. So I think it's a reasonable appropriation to match where the industry is going as a whole.
Thinking it, and just for the committee, this is, it is tax dollars. These are federal tax dollars. There's no state tax dollars involved. That's where the match, instead of the recipients of these grants had to make the match. Initially, the state was going to make the match, but now it's the recipients.
As we get into future phases, community charging, there may be applications where state dollars would be involved as we look at state hosting of sites. But currently, with phase one, there's no state dollars involved.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Representative Hebron, you have some future legislators there with you today. Would you like to have a moment to introduce them?
Yes, thank you so much, Chairman. I have my little cousins with me today. They're from Axtell, Breckenridge County, and I've got Roger Carter, Sayanine Dale, and Lena Catherine with me. And so Sayanine, he says he wants to be in Frankfurt someday because he can travel all over the world and have fun. And I'm so tickled that he thinks that's what politics is right now. But very excited to have them here today. It truly is an honor, and it's a great reminder for all of us of why we're serving and the future that we are making decisions for. So thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And committee, would you please join me in the audience in making them welcome? Okay, next up on the agenda is something that we've heard a little bit about lately, CAVIS. Heather Stout, Executive Director, Office of Information Technology for the Kentucky Department of Transportation. The floor is yours. If you don't mind, introduce yourself for the record and please proceed.
Certainly. My name's Heather Stout. I'm the Executive Director of IT for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. So today we're going to talk about some comparison numbers, 2023 to 2024, and a title update and rebuild update because of some of the backlog that we'd have over the past few months. But I want to start off first just to kind of tell you kind of the state of where we stand right now with CAVIS. You know, when we early on in the project, we had a lot of issues, as you all are very aware. When you roll out a system of this magnitude, that's replacing a 45-year-old mainframe system with the type of data migration we had to do, that was expected. We did have some high volume issues that were impacting a lot of different types of transactions. A lot of that has stabilized. The issues that we're having now are very edge case issues. They're one-off things or certain very specific scenarios where we're still trying to correct those things as they arise. Some of them require a significant amount of research to find out why it even became a problem because they don't happen as frequently. So that's one big area where we're working right now. The other is just in the workflow. So what we're hearing from a lot of clerks is that they're managing their processes, but the speed with which they're able to conduct transactions needs to be faster. So what may have taken them 3 minutes to perform maybe is taking 5 now, and those minutes add up. So that's an area where the team is focusing is on enhancements at this point, much less so on actual bug fixes or issues. It's much more in workflow enhancements and improvements in that area, as well as legislative changes. I'll talk a little bit about those other system improvements we're working on as well. Another thing that we're dealing with right now is CAVIS is kind of the target of a lot of complaints. It's the excuse for a lot of problems. So there was a couple of articles that came out just last week where a police department was complaining that there was this major CAVIS system issue where plates and decals were mismatched from the registration receipt. So we spent a lot of hours trying to figure out what in the world is going on. I hadn't heard about this issue. I'm kind of panicking. This is a big problem, but it wasn't. The information had gone to the dealers. The dealer had actually mismatched the decal with the license plate. And that became this article that was put out as a CAVIS system issue. We also had one where a personalized plate wasn't able to be issued on a vehicle because it had already been given to another person. That actually happened in Avis, not in CAVIS. So the thing that we're finding with CAVIS is that it is correcting a lot of those things that were maybe not as tightly restricted in Avis are much more tightly restricted in Cavis. It's requiring a lot of cleanup, and which is all good news, but it is also a hassle too to some of the public and to clerks as well, because they have to walk through those things and correct them as we go through the year. So that's kind of just the state of where we're at right now. A lot of the things that we're hearing either are a data issue or were something that actually occurred initially in the Avis system that's now causing a data problem in Cavis, or it's potentially where Cavis was not, or Avis was not as tightly restricting things, and the law now is being more closely followed in Cavis. So the comparison numbers, what we have, and I showed this last time, this is an update through June. As a state, we've collected more than 20 million this year versus last year. We've done quite a few more checkouts, and that's just, think of your Amazon shopping cart, you're checking out, those more transactions occurring in Cavis, and more property tax collection so far this year. However, this doesn't really tell the whole picture. There are some counties that haven't made up that change. That could be because of the early Cavis challenges and the backlog that they currently have. That could be a cyclical thing. It could be that they're lower in their property tax collection. People just haven't come in. So there's a lot of, or sales could just be down in that area. So there's a lot of reasons why numbers in some counties could be lower.
Yours is not. It's not up on the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. You're fine.
I'm not presenting it, I don't think.
Okay. Do you know?
You think the IT director for transportation could do this, right?
That's an assumption.
Just wanted you to know. Is it up?
Thank you. Somebody should have stopped me. Okay. So, I think you guys have this in your packet as well, right? Okay. Wonderful. All right. So I wanted to show, I just chose the top 8 counties
I
by
was going to tell you
population.
FYI now, we're saving paper. We don't have that in our packet.
Oh,
You and I
It's
do.
online. Yeah, you all get it.
Well, you have it. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't think everyone had it.
okay.
Please proceed.
Okay, so we took the top 8 populated counties in the state just to show that there is a difference in collections by county. And as I said, there's a lot of different reasons for that. Jefferson, Fayette, Boone, Kenton, Warren, Hardin, Madison, Davies, they're all kind of in a different state of collections. Some counties have collected way more than normal from 2023, and some are less. But again, those issues with some of the dealer backlogs, some of the enhancement issues that we need to do, maybe there's process changes and things that need to occur. That's just a representative sample of where things are. Overall, as a state, we are over our 2023 numbers, but that still doesn't necessarily reflect where all counties are. So I just want to make sure that I wasn't representing that incorrectly. What we are focused on now, and this is the same slide you saw in June, we have made progress on a lot of these things, and I think there's been 2 releases since the last time that we met, but these still remain at the top. We're still trying to work on these areas. The bulk transactions, the ones that are larger volume transactions, there's still some enhancement work and workflow improvements that need to be done. Of course, legislative updates. We talked a little bit about KYELT last time. Some fleet management changes, the 10K plate to birth months, which that has been implemented, electric vehicles and reinstatement fee that are coming as well. So those are on the pipeline, as well as just further improvements in reporting. We'll continue with the data cleanup until we don't need to any longer. I'm sure that'll happen the rest of this year for sure. And then enhancements, just speed, efficiency. That's really a focus area where we've got our team working right now. And I will say the team has, while we're not working, 100 hours a week like we were when we first started, they're very dedicated. They're still working a significant number of hours to try to make sure that we get as much in each release as we can to continue to help DOR, clerks, PVAs, and all the different stakeholders. So I was asked to give an update on kind of titles and where that was. We had a backlog very early a few months ago that we've worked to correct. The statutory requirement is that we review titles within 5 days. The current timeline is 4. Now, this does not indicate those that haven't been submitted yet from clerks. So clerks have their own backlog. Once they're submitted to motor vehicle licensing, we have 5 days. They're currently at 4. Over 680,000 titles have been printed just this year. And then this graph just shows you kind of the monthly breakdown. There are a lot of transactions that occur in March, as you'll see. But I just wanted you to see that it is kind of a seasonal thing as well. Now, rebuilt titles. This was a big topic last time. As you know, the backlog of rebuilt titles comes from a variety of different areas. Volume increases in the number of title applications, staffing shortages in motor vehicle licensing, and then some of the early CAVIS challenges that caused that backlog to even get created. They are currently, however, working rebuilt applications from May 17th and forward, which is a big improvement from last time. I believe they were in March. Improvements that we've made since the June 4th meeting. We have modified some support processes so they're not spending as much time on the phone, taking away from title application approval. We have cleaned up some items in their rebuilt queue of work to remove applications that team shouldn't be working on, that some other teams should be working on, to try to make it easier for them to go through the processing. We are sharing with clerks what days are currently being processed, just so if they get inquiries, they can know where they're at in the process. We have implemented a process change to make the speed of approval quicker. And then we've hired 10 additional staff. 4 of those were backfill state staff members, and then 6 were our temp staff that have been hired to help log all the new work that comes in and to start doing approvals. Some of them are still in training as well, so that should continue to improve the numbers. Some other improvements that we're looking at, and we talked a little bit about this, but processing applications in the order that they are received, and then processing resubmissions based on their initial submission date. So if something is rejected or returned back because a piece of information is missing, when it goes back into the queue to work, we want to work it based on the initial submission date and not based on the new submission date, because then that extends their timeline. So we're just trying to make sure that's happening. So that's why I didn't put it as an official improvement that's occurred. That's still a process we're making sure is occurring. We're also trying to come up with a way to share the transparency of the status. I'm not sure this is really going to be necessary once we get the backlog complete, but it's something that we're considering, not just for rebuilt titles, but for all titles, is how can we better share what the status of that is. It's been received, it's been processed, it's been approved, been rejected, et cetera. So that's something that we are considering. So finally, one thing that we were trying to do is look at the backlog progress. So first week of June, we started kind of measuring based on average daily rebuilt applications we were receiving and average daily that we were reviewing, and then how many were actually in the pending review category. So we started with August 21st being the date we felt like we would be meeting statutory compliance or be within that 5-day window, or what I say down to about 1,000 pending that we can work in a week. We're now down to August 12th. So that date continues to drop and get closer to us. So I'm thinking that within a month, or probably less, we will be caught up to within a week of processing rebuilt title applications. So I think the team has made significant progress, and we're still working on ways to continue to improve those things. We just met yesterday, or the team did, to talk about how do we get the, you see here the difference between the CAVIS queue pending review and the mail drop pending review. So we have 2 different mechanisms that these rebuilt applications come in. They come in through the clerk's office, they scan them in, and they're already in the CAVIS queue to be worked, or they come in via mail or get dropped off. And at that point, they're logged into a spreadsheet and then worked from there. We want to get them logged into Canvas so we have one queue that the staff is working from, and it just helps with reporting and helps with us measuring progress more easily. So there's still a few things we're working on to try to speed this process up, but I do think the team has made pretty significant progress in the past month.
We do have a
And
question.
that's it.
If you don't mind, I'll let
Sure.
Representative Huff go ahead and ask his question there.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
timely.
Chairman. I deal in rebuilt vehicles. I haven't seen any improvement. You said you're on May 17th.
Mm-hmm.
I've got, we checked this morning. I have no new approvals. I've got them as early as May 1st. So I don't know what's going
Well,
on there.
You'll have to give me some examples so that we can look that up.
Examples.
Title numbers, VIN numbers preferably, and we can look those up and see where they are and why they're not falling into this process.
Alrighty. Last month you said it would be four to 6 weeks, and about a week after that I got 6 approvals, and I've got about 25 still waiting. One example was given of a person that sold a vehicle and didn't get the approval, and they had to give them their money back. In our case, we don't put them up for sale until we actually have the approval. So my holding lot is starting to look bigger than my car lot looks empty. I had a member of leadership stop by the lot the other day and asked me why my lot was so low. And I showed him this row of about 25 cars that are waiting for approvals, again, as early as May 1st. I've got several that are before May 17th.
Okay. Well,
And I've got 6 approvals in the last month. Just that one drop, right about a week after our last meeting. And every day it's nothing. Just like to see if I could be checked into.
Yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
It's hurting business. I've had other legislators contact me, call me by phone, ask me what's going on, because I'm in the business, so
right.
I tell them nothing's changed. It's the 49-year-old system, Avis. We would get an approval in about 5 to 7 days, and now I'm waiting 2.5 months. So I can't see an improvement. I hope it is. If you hired that many more people out,
It should be, right?
it should be.
If you give me some examples of those that are in that May 1st to May 17th window, I would love to verify where they are in the progress.
I'll try to have them before we leave.
Because the information I've been given is that they're at May 17th forward. So I'll definitely want to check on those.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Yes, please proceed.
I'm finished. I just was going
Okay.
to see if you had any questions.
Well, I do have Senator Storm has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are Kentucky titles printed here in Kentucky, or are they printed in another state? And could that possibly expedite the problem we're experiencing if they were maybe perhaps printed in Kentucky?
Actually, the rebuilt title process, they get an approval letter, and I think that's what he hasn't received. Is he's saying he has missing the approval letter, and then you take that approval letter to the clerk to do the title process, which then would print the title. Those are printed in Tennessee through our vendor.
Can I follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please do.
Would it expedite it if it was actually printed in Kentucky?
I'm not sure that it would. The vendor that we utilize has, and I'm not even sure there's a vendor in Kentucky that has the capability that this one does with the security required of that certified paper for titles. But that would probably have to go out for RFP if it did. But usually once a title is printed, it's 2 to 3 days delivery. We haven't really heard much more of a complaint on the timing for delivery.
Representative Smith has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the other issues, and I appreciate the Senator and the Representative Huff with their comments, one of the other issues that I've ran into is temporary tags that they've had to use. And some of them have been looked into by your inspectors out there and maybe even wrote up for using temp tags. I'd like for the cabinet to look into that, because during this transition that you've had, some of them, to stay in business, used a temp tag so they could try to keep the sale going on the vehicle. and they've been wrote up for it being. And once the inspector found out that the car had been inspected, has gone through the process, I think they're trying to work with them now. So I'd like the cabinet to look into that. They don't need to be punished for trying to stay in business. I'm not saying any gray area or anything wrong, but if they're there doing it right and they have a past of being in business for a while, doing it right, we need to try to protect our businesses from going out, and that's the reason we've had discussions with you. We're trying to keep them from going out of business.
Right.
And for the other members on this committee, just a quick brief, what they're up against is that's money. The title is money to that dealer. And if they're held for 3 or 4 months without their money and they've got their investment out there, their floor plan has gone past the 90 days, they're on a penalty day-to-day basis, they're losing money.
Right.
And when you lose money in a business, you eventually go out.
Yeah.
And a lot of these rebuilds companies are in this, businesses are in it, they have put all they have, all their means and their life and their resources into it. Once they go bankrupt, it is a chain reaction. And everybody in your district's going to feel it because it's bigger than what you think it is out there on this business right now. So again, just if you could look into the temporary tags to make sure there's not a punishment going on while you're trying to fix a system. Let's not punish our businesses for trying to stay in.
Certainly. I will talk with Carlos Cassidy, who's the Director of Motor Vehicle Commission.
Okay.
And they do a lot of investigation and enforcement around temp tags.
All right, thank you.
Representative Smith, if one thing the cabinet has figured out since CAVAS came about is how many rebuilt titles there actually are out there. This is a big business in Kentucky.
It is.
Very big. One thing you mentioned that you were going to try to start doing these titles in the order that they were received. One would think that's the way we did business anyway, but could you explain that further?
Yes, they do process them in the order that they are received. It's when they reject one for needing additional information. When it comes back into the queue, it shows as a new application in the queue rather than one that's been resubmitted. So we're trying to make sure that the application that was initially submitted, let's say it was submitted May 1st and rejected May 5th and came back in May 10th, it's not processed as to May 10th, it's processed as to May 1st. So that's what I meant by that.
Okay. And also in the news was Jefferson County Clerk's office stepping up to help you, Clerk Coleslaw, helping with that. You didn't mention are they working on the rebuilt titles or just to catch you up on normal titles?
Just normal titles. I think there's a backlog in their dealer transactions. I'm sure they'll speak to it in getting those 2 motor vehicle licensing. So getting them initially submitted because they have a high volume of transactions. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, and look forward to next month when you're back to say, we're done, we're caught up. You can bring the champagne. Next up, we have our several clerks with us today. First up is my clerk, Chad Mattingly. Chad, if you'll come forth and identify yourself for the record, and I guess I hope your drive up was good, and not many people would say it's dry in Marion County, but it is dry. Yeah, I don't know if you saw it today or not, but I saw 2 trees fighting over a dog when I was coming up. That's how dry it is. Bad joke, I know. But Chad, if you would, identify yourself for the record and please proceed. Yeah, turn your mic on, please.
I'm Jason Denny, Anderson County Clerk and current chair of the Transportation Committee for the KCCA.
And I'm Susan Lamb, the Fayette County Clerk.
And with the mic on, I'm Chad Mattingly, the Marion County Clerk.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman Higdon. Thank you, Chairman Blanton. Good afternoon, senators and representatives. We appreciate you having us join you today. There have been issues associated with the implementation of CAVUS. Issues include renewal notices, not printing or printing with incorrect data, the backlog that we're currently experiencing in the rebuilt applications, data migrating from Avis that wasn't completely accurate, which was years and years old. So the inability to separate organizations with different entities in multiple counties, such as southern states, and other isolated issues that affect specialized areas in minor and sometimes major ways. But all in all, CAVUS has surpassed all of my expectations. If contentment is the ratio between expectations and reality, I would have to say that I'm extremely content in CAVUS. This time last year, I would not have bet that CAVUS would be implemented in 2024. In November and December, when the CAVUS team announced their plans to merge the data from Avis in a week, I felt that was either overly optimistic or possibly delusional. But when we closed our office on December 29th last year, I said that if we were up again by the March rush, then we would have to consider that a success. But CAVUS launched on schedule. The Marion County Clerk Office was down for 4 days and a Saturday to start the year. Was the product perfect on launch? Is any new tech product perfect on launch? My crew of deputies that I'm honored to work alongside showed tremendous resiliency, dedication, and adaptability for those first few months. The public showed tremendous patience when Marion County experienced lines for the first time that I can remember. It was the first time that our office felt like a stereotypical DMV. My family got in the habit of coming to the office after we closed because they knew that it would be a long time before Dad come home, if I got home before bedtime at all, working on non-transportation issues and aspects of our office that got neglected during the day because of what we were experiencing on the transportation side. But I'm happy to report that the last month and a half has seen a sense of normalcy return. The team that has built CAVUS has created a product that will improve as it is used. As the users in the clerk offices and PVA offices and our partner agencies clean up the 40 years of data that migrated from the ancient language that Avis spoke into the modern language of modern computers, and the developers continuously and steadily improve and show their dedication to that improvement and commitment to improve the product, we will have a system that will improve efficiency and constituent service for many years to come. In Marion County, from the beginning, we knew that we just had to get through this year. We have to get every Marion County into the office at least once to get their customer account cleaned up. We have to get the old data from Avis cleaned up. And we have to ingrain it within ourselves the philosophical differences between Avis and CAVUS into our processes and how we deal with our constituents. The product that the CAVUS developers continue to improve upon will be a success that this cynical clerk couldn't have imagined this time last year. And Jason Denny with Anderson County will speak on his experiences in Anderson County.
Chad, I was going to tell you, talking about how long we've talked about CAVUS coming about and wondering if it would ever get here. I served in the House of Representatives a long time ago, and we were talking about CAVUS then. And
Karen Spalding was talking about CAVUS.
So it's been a while.
It's been a while.
So
yes,
it is a relief that it's finally here. Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Once again, I'm Jason Denny, I'm an Anderson County Clerk. I've served on the CAVUS Steering Committee for the past 8 years, as well as the development team. Looking forward to the day in which CAVUS was implemented. My staff volunteered as one of the 3 counties to be there on Sunday, January the 7th, to be part of the day before implementation team to pre-test the system. We were one of 7 counties that were anxious to be on the first live day on that Monday of January the 8th. After multiple other attempts for a Cavis product, we launched on January the 8th. And this should be looked upon as a success in replacing an antiquated 40-year-old system. Many laws had been overlooked due to the limitations and issues of the old Avis system. Many times we saw Avis crash and there would be no ETA on when it would be back up. There were times there would be multiple days in which Avis was not performing. But Cavis has outdone that one obstacle. We knew there would be growing pains, however. We have seen dramatic improvements with multiple production releases since the implementation. We are excited for the future of Cavis and support the program development team as they continue to deliver a product that we all can be proud of. We've had to adapt to office procedures, ways of thinking outside the box, older ways of thinking. I have seen staff that are brand new that are coming up with new innovative procedures in our office to change the way we've done things while following the law. Emphasize the importance of creating, the state emphasized the importance of driver's license verified customer accounts for over the last 8 to 10 years. Meaning that our office worked diligently to scan driver's license, to create customer accounts, because with Cavis, we are customer-centric, not vehicle-centric. We did that, and with that work, we saw very few issues with customer accounts as we went live on Election Day. With that being said, I'm going to turn this over to my friend Susan Lamb in Fayette County to expand on that and some other issues.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Higdon and Blanton and legislative members. Thank you for allowing me to speak before you today. With the implementation of Cavis, we have been very frustrated, but remain patient as we continue to work through numerous issues. Because we in Fayette County are the second largest county, we have had a wide array of transactions we handle daily. Renewals are running smoother, and we aren't experiencing the long lines like we did the first several months. Transfers are still running slower because of the additional steps required. Under Avis, we could process a transfer 2 to 4 minutes, and now Cavis takes 6 to 12 minutes, and that is without any glitches. Our dealer room is running a little bit better after working longer days and Saturdays. We have changed our process, and we are using deputy clerks from other areas when available to verify and create customer profiles on the work in the dealer room, since they can't just scan a driver's license. We have identified and shared several glitches with the Cavis team, but one specific glitch happens when you are verifying a customer with a social security number or a driver's license. Luckily, the Cavis team saw it firsthand in our office. This one, while it doesn't happen on every transaction, when it does, it causes multiple entries of the same information. On Friday, we scanned my driver's license, and it pulled up 5 different customer profiles. Cleaning the profiles is taking a longer time. It is true, once we touch every customer in our county, then it shouldn't be an issue. But this means it will take a full year or longer to get through this process. We are still experiencing serious bookkeeping issues involving daily, weekly, and monthly reports that calculate state and local fees, and most issues stem from the Cavis team recommending to manually adjust the fees which are due to Cavis workarounds. Manual adjustments are time-consuming, require more attention to detail, and concerning when it comes time for the audit. Reversals of registration, cancellations due to incomplete transfers, or out-of-state cancellations are preventing customers from being able to complete other transactions. Lack of communication about what the priorities are and who sets them continues to be a concern. Some of the You Drive It accounts are too large and time out before you can add the leasee. The screen displays "Oh snap" with a cookie when it times out. Apportion certificates are very confusing for customers. On the drive.ky.gov website, it states new apportion certificates will always have expiration date of March 31st, but the next sentence says that they may have their expiration date changed from March 31st to the date established with their IRP account. My team has had to explain this to some very irate customers. Fayette County originally was going to be part of the launch of Kentucky ELT, but we felt that integrating anything else with Cavis while changes are still being made was very concerning. Thank you again for allowing me to speak before you today to share some of what we are dealing with in Fayette County. I am very pleased to continue to work with all involved as Cavis continues to improve. Providing support to my team is my number one priority. What I have said since day one is we ask for everyone's patience during this transition, and we appreciate and value a collaborative partnership with everyone involved. Thank you.
Well, thank each of, thank each of you for taking time out of your busy days to be with us today. I don't see any questions as we speak, but we have one more presentation, and we can, if we have any questions for you, we'll call you back. Thank you all very much for being here. Next up, the Jefferson County Clerk, Bobby Holtzclaw. Madam Clerk, there, push the button and get the green light to come on.
There we go. Thank you so much. I'm here today. I asked to be here today. And I'm here because our customer, the taxpayer, asked me to be here today.
If you would, before you go any further, would you please identify yourself for the record and please proceed?
Bobby Holtzclaw, Jefferson County Clerk. We have so many issues. It's great to get us sit up here and give a bunch of numbers, but if you're not in the trenches and understand what's going on day to day, Representative Huff, I totally respect your comments because we live it every day. Last week, I had to close 2 branch offices just to keep those employees to do the dealer work. I'm not here today to really talk about the unbelievable lines that we have at the clerk's office to get work processed, but I am here today to talk about the backlog of dealer work. The dealers in Jefferson County, we have, I believe it's 265 dealerships, and really closer to 300 if you take in all the work that we take from the Indiana dealerships. You're pushing close to 300 dealerships. They've been on TV, they've protested. I had one gentleman on television who was saying that they were going to have to move from Kentucky over into Indiana because they can't afford it. The smaller dealerships are drowning. And they bring in a lot of taxpayer money into the state or the Commonwealth. And I do believe they deserve better. I can give you example after example here today, but I'm only here to tell you the truth. And that is, Cavis, I want it to work. I pray that it can work. But so far, in my opinion, it's been a disaster. I look at the customers that are in these branches every day. They're sitting and waiting and waiting. And they are staffed. We have a heavy staff. Now, you've got to give them lunch every day. You've got to give them breaks. So it's hard to even keep a full counter. But we're trying our best. But what I'm hoping is that you all will look at some of the past AVIS situations and some of the things that they had in the AVIS program that they did not put in the CAVIS program that would help the dealerships. I've got that down here. Let me give it to you. It is KRS 186A145. Basically, this law would allow the clerks to process commercial transactions and override any computer roadblocks. And a lot of this is due to old information in there. It's still not cleaned up. It's been very frustrating, and to be quite honest with you, it's become useless to try to call because nobody answers the phone. Or if you text, you may get an email back a week later. And for a county as large as Jefferson, it really is difficult. My office is down over $2 million. We're not able to hold on like that. That's a lot of money for a county clerk's office. And I would say most of that money is dealer work. And I do think the dealers deserve better. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. I didn't really, after everyone spoke, everything was already said, and I kind of got off script. I just thought I just needed to speak with you. I will pass right on over to Brian Smith. He is the Hardin County Clerk, to see if he has any comments.
Thank you. I wasn't on the invite list.
Please
Mr.
identify
Chairman.
yourself for the
Yes,
record,
sir.
please.
I'm Brian D. Smith, and I am the Hardin County Clerk, and I am the newest clerk in the room. I'm the baby clerk. I'm new at my job, and it's a job I love more than anyone I've ever had. But this has been a tough year. I think my counterpart from Fayette County really gave you some good details. So everything she mentioned is an issue in my office. I am currently today on June 25th dealer work. That's our backlog. And to give you some perspective, I think it was mid-October of last year, my backlog was 0. I had 0 dealer work on the shelf last year. And so we know the process is taking longer. Each transaction is taking longer. At the Friday, the last day of last month, my dealer department did just under 1,000 transactions in one day. So we're a big county. We're the 4th largest county by area, the 6th largest by population. So it's a multiplying thing. I commend the CAVIS team. I like what it can be. My staff, I will commend them. They have adapted to this, and they're rolling. My youngest staffer is 17 years old and has about 3 months staff. She's a high school graduate. And my most senior staff has 25 years of staff. It's 25 years of experience. We're an experienced office, probably averaging between the 8 and 10 years. I didn't do the math. So my staff have about 8 to 10 years across the board, and they know what they're doing. So we just need more resources put behind the fixes that will expedite this dealer work for us. My county will go from a negative to a positive. I'm sure of it. But I want to say something to you all specifically about my staff. I am more concerned about their physical, emotional, and mental security and safety this year than I was last year. We have on more than one occasions had the sheriff's office send a deputy up to my office to ensure security and peace in my office. That is something we didn't have to do last year. Now, that's not CAVIS's fault. The public is getting frustrated while they're waiting in longer lines. And unfortunately, it's become a reality where people feel emboldened to swear, stomp, cuss, and throw stuff. So I just ask that you keep in mind that behind the computer program, behind the policies, behind the laws, behind all that, are good working men and women in my office who go to a job every day and they do their darndest to take care of everybody, the dealer and also the individual. I will say one thing is more unique about Hardin County than some other counties is we have a lot of military transactions. We are proud to be the front gate to Fort Knox. And summer is very, very busy for us because the Army does tend to move its families during the summertime. those transactions take a long time too. They have to visit the PVA's office. They have to sometimes visit the sheriff's office because their cars are coming from out of state. Anything that could be done legally to expedite this and make it an easier transition for our service members, I would be 100% in supportive of. I will tell you that they compliment my staff, especially if they've come from California. They get treated a little bit nicer in Kentucky than they do from California. But I've probably spoken longer than I should have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That's it. Anyone else? Okay, Senator Berg has a question. Microphone, Senator Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking at the collection data, you were talking about how, you're 2 million plus behind. And Hardin also a little bit behind, but some counties seem to be, significantly ahead. Is there differences in implementation based on the size of the counties? What do you attribute that discrepancy to?
The number of dealerships. Some of your smaller counties may have 1 or 2 dealerships. And like I said, you're looking at Jefferson, which has close to 300 dealerships. A lot of the problems that we're having aren't necessarily technical problems. A lot of them are managerial problems, which I think you guys could help us correct. But as far as the difference between, or why we have more money we're losing, is because of the number of dealerships. Now, that's not to say that the lines are longer. They are. But I think the majority of that work is dealer work. And there's just that many. And when I closed the branch, those 2 branches a week ago, they were sitting on 7,000 pieces of paperwork that dated back a month ago. It's a lot of paperwork. And even then, even after they were closed, they were still taking in dealer work. And hopefully at the end of 2 weeks, we'll have that caught up. But, my fear is it's going to eventually build back up again. But I felt like I had to do something. I owed it to the dealers.
Can I address that too, Bob?
Pardon?
Can I address that too?
Senator Berg and Mr. Chairman, Frank Friday, Government Affairs Director for the County Clerk's Office. I just go back to not just the dealership issue, but in Jefferson County, we have an enormous number of corporate fleets. We have lots of rental fleets. We have lots of leasing fleets. These are all bulk customers that use the commercial side of Kentucky vehicle law. And I think I spoke to Mr. Chairman, I think, and some members of the committee, members of both transportation committees way back in January. One of the big issues we saw at the very beginning of CAVIS implementation was it just wasn't addressing current Kentucky law, which is under KRS 186A 045, allows certain things to be done by the clerks to address these commercial customers. And instead, it puts in a lot of roadblocks for when the clerk tries to take care of those, implement those transactions. We really need the folks in Frankfurt here who are running this program to look at what they can do to address that. Maybe it may come down to putting together folks from revenue and transportation to issue more guidelines on what CAVIS can and cannot do. But all the things that AVIS was doing was legal, pretty much legal under the law, and a lot of in making this a more perfect system, they've kind of really slowed it down. That's one of the big problems, and especially for the commercial customers. And in Jefferson County, we just have an extraordinary number of companies and leasing fleets and other customers who qualify under that side of the commercial under that side of the vehicle laws. So just keep that in mind. Yeah.
Chairman Blanton has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam, you said it's not so much a technical problem, but a manager problem. Could you expound upon when you're saying a manager problem?
Managerial problem. It's issues that we could work around if given the okay to do it. It's not something that's not illegal.
May I?
Sure.
Does this go back to your talking about the 186A statute and the override? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, there's certain transactions that we can do that we could go around in the old Avis system and work around. This won't allow us to do that.
Okay, and to quote Mr. Friday, because I wrote it down verbatim, pretty much legal under the law was the phrase you used. Pretty much legal. I mean, we want things to be.
We want things to be
legal.
perfectly legal, but my issue was under the old Avis system, the laws and regulations over 45 years where they evolved, and the system we had last year was fine for what we had. It generated there was over the 45 years it generated some bad data which was never cleaned up in Frankfurt, but that's what it was. My issue was that in seeking to make things perfect, we've done things we didn't need to do with Cavis. And and when Bobby says it's a managerial issue, it's something that the folks in Frankfurt who are at the top of this have to figure out what's really worth keeping, what's worth keeping very stringently, and where can we use the law as it was intended to manage this process. And until then, the clerks are basically swamped.
So going back to Senator Berg's comments about some counties, and I get the volume, I got you, and the number of dealers, I'm following you there, but some counties are getting it, some aren't, and you mentioned it's not so much a technical problem. So if it's not a technical problem, is it an input problem? Is it understanding how the system actually is supposed to work, and are they?
There are several technical problems, and our other county clerk executive here can explain a little bit more about that if you want that. But there's a lot of issues with Cavis and what its technical limitations and what's not working. But just in my term, in something that I've been tried to be very open to the committee going back to January, which was I didn't think Cavis was following or taking advantage of all the legal opportunities that our current motor vehicle law gives us to expedite transactions. And I don't think half the county clerks in Kentucky even have one motor vehicle licensed dealer. It's a pretty small number. It's just we're all concentrated in a couple of counties, and especially in Jefferson County with these transactions and with these types of businesses. So that's just kind of what we're stuck with. And like I say, a little more imagination by everybody, especially the folks who are designing it, couldn't hurt.
Mr. Chairman, one
Yes, sir. Please
just a
follow up.
comment, and I get the frustration. I understand it. I understand the frustration from your customers. But I've worked a lot with the folks that's working on the system, and they are doing everything they can, and they're listening, and they're trying to address it. And I know it's hard to say, ask for patience when we're in July, but this was a big undertaking, as was said earlier by one of the clerks, who basically inferred this was so voluminous it would never happen. Never, but it is happening, and we are making progress, and they're going to continue to make progress as this thing moves along. And anytime you implement something new, there's going to be bugs, there's going to be tweaks, and they're making those as they go along. But I appreciate you all coming and bringing your concerns and what you're experiencing in Jefferson County.
Well, Representative Blanton, let me say, I want to see Cavis work. I want to see it work. And I'm doing everything in my power to make it work. And as far as the team, the Cavis team, I'm sure they are working hard. Would never say they're not. But there's certain areas that need improvement, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I thank you for listening to me.
Any other questions? Representative Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just a comment. I appreciate the
Smith, I think.
and all the other clerks are going through and putting up this difficult process. You do have an ear with us, and we're understanding your challenges. And I'm sorry that some things got a little bit out of hand from a frustration point of view in your offices and so forth. So, and I had to call in the sheriff and the police in order to take care of those situations. But I just want to let you know that we are hearing, and I know that Chairman Blanton has been very, very close to this, as well as Chairman Higdon and so forth. I guess I have a question maybe for the chairs, not to put you on the spot, and I'm trying to refresh this, but CAVIS was done internally. Was there any consideration? I thought there was in terms of looking outside of just internal process in order to get a firm outside of the state government in order to provide the service.
Somebody can correct me, but my original thoughts when I was serving on the A&R in the House, we hired a vendor and they quit. And
Okay.
And it came back in house, and it's been a slow process. Somebody's been around longer than I that remembers exactly what happened can.
I actually believe there were three different outside vendors who had attempted to make the system work. And it's huge. The volume that is in this little program is massive. And they are having a difficult time. I'm not here to say they're not working hard. But I'm saying I'm here, and as I said earlier, I'm here for the taxpayer, our customer. And they are having a hard time. And as Mr. Smith said, the employees are under a tremendous amount of stress because people get so angry. They have to call a manager. We have sheriffs in each one of those branches. The sheriffs have to come over to quieten them down or escort them out. So let's be real. People don't like government anymore. And when they get somebody who will listen, they're ready to let their anger out.
Okay, one more question. Representative Smith, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'll be really quick. Thank you for coming here and standing up for your businesses.
I appreciate that.
That's the one thing that caught my attention in all this. I'm not a clerk. I don't know what your daily operations consist of, but I hear from mine. But I want to thank you, even if it's just one business is suffering. And then I can tell that's what you're here for. And I couldn't imagine the task taken on with the population that you deal with. But if you'll put in writing what you've described here and send it to the legislators, I'll at least get one. I'd like to know what your remedy is. And I think it's our responsibility to listen. And my responsibility to listen, even though I'm in eastern Kentucky, I still don't want one business to go out in Louisville. So thank you for doing what you did today, even though it's not probably popular with a lot of people. But with me, the one statement that you made was about businesses. And thank you for that one business that may be suffering, or out of the 300. But I appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your kind words.
Brian, thank you for being here today also.
Thank you.
Bobby, thank you for your work. And like I said, you are in a unique situation with all the dealers and all the extra stuff that you have to do. And thank you for your leadership on solving this, with putting these other two branches to work to just deal with the dealers. I think that was a great move and one that you're to be commended for. Before we close, though, does Matt or Heather, either one of you all, have anything else, any follow-up that you'd like to add before we adjourn? Okay. Well, seeing no further questions, do we have a motion to adjourn? We have a motion to adjourn in a second. And one last word of our next meeting will take place on Tuesday, August the 20th at 1 o'clock in this room. Thank you all for being here today.